right. Mm. Hey, Shabbat Shalom, everyone. I'm going to give it a few minutes and let people join in today. We have a lot to talk about. Oh. Oh. Can you go to mommy? Can you go hang out with mommy? Yeah. Sweet. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Hey, good to see all you. Jordan, Harley, Randy. All right. Got a lot to talk about. Like I said, I'm going to give it a few minutes to let everybody join in. But Shabbat Shalom to all you. Thank you for joining. Very much appreciate it. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. All right. Looks like we've got a good crowd today. Hey, before we get started, I see Ashley joined in. Ashley and Rayleigh, thank you for the shirt. I don't know if it's going to come through very well, but yeah, that darn green screen. You know what? Let me see if I can flip that off for a second. I'm still messing with the. There it is. Okay. Here we go. Remember how we were joking about Sheepdog Gang? Well, now we are. Children of Yah. Thank you, Ashley and Rayleigh. We got the shirts today. They're beautiful. They fit good. They're soft. We really appreciate it. No, can you go see mommy, baby? Or you want some cold? Yeah, it's really cool. Sheepdog Gang. Appreciate you making those shirts for us. It's really, really cool. Thank you. Oh, yeah. Thank you guys very much. Ashley designs shirts. Rayleigh, well, your husband or your wife does really good stuff. Right, you guys will have to excuse me. Might be a little flush today. Our AC unit went out yesterday, which is some of what we're going to talk about today. So it's 86 degrees in our house right now. It is not intolerable, but it's close. You gonna go with mommy? You go with mommy? Yeah, take your snacks. Go with mommy.
You want an ice pack?
We got washcloths. We got naked babies. To be honest, I'd probably be naked if I wasn't doing a live stream. It's really, really hot. I'm just being 100% with you guys. There's been a lot of attacks going on in our community, and that's what I wanted to talk about. We are going to take a brief break from Revelation just today. We're going to get back into it next week. But I really felt called to talk about something else today, which is what you guys saw on my green screen right here. Why do good people suffer? Let's get into it. I see that most of the people that I wanted to be here are here today. I don't know if maybe you guys aren't talking, but I asked a few people to be here. A lot of you in the last couple of months have been having spiritual attacks. Yesterday, Brother Ken and Tiffany were on their way to come fellowship in person with me and my wife. We were very, very much looking forward to that. They got halfway here and their car broke down. The engine's done. It's destroyed. They had to have a family member from their city come up and help them tow their vehicle back. And then shortly after that happened, our AC unit went out. Now, I'm hoping it's just, need a Freon recharge. Best case scenario, $150 to $300. Worst case scenario, I need a new one, $6,000 to $8,000. And that, I don't see that being a coincidence. Those happening on the same day right before Shabbat. And that's not just that. We're just itching the surface. Some of this information, I feel like you guys would be comfortable with me to name drop. Some of it, it's not my business to share, so I'm not going to mention names here. But Sister Anita, her account on TikTok got banned. She had to make a new one, and all of her contacts in the Torah community are gone. This just happened to her, and she reached out to me about it. Sister Jordan, I hope you don't mind me talking about your situation, but just the other night, she reached out to my wife and I, and she might be getting evicted due to a very sketchy subletting situation that she had no idea about. Brother Harley, you lost a giant chunk of your income just not too long ago. You didn't lose all of it, but you lost a big chunk of it. Pale Feathers, it looks like your car broke down as well. I know some of you are experiencing pain, like physical, actual pain. Some of you have reached out and talked to me about the chronic pain you have from car accidents. Even someone getting hit by a car, having chronic pain, having to go through surgeries. I mean, I just had to go through a surgery. It has been non-stop for the last couple of months with you guys reaching out to me, talking about this stuff. And I wanted to, Dee, your AC unit went out and had to be replaced 2 weeks ago. And the transmission in your vehicle, that's what I'm talking about. Now, I know you guys don't always share what's going on with me, but a lot of times you do. I know some of you sit quietly and listen and don't share about all your suffering, but it does not seem like a coincidence to me that all of this is happening relatively within the same time frame. I mean, we're talking about all this happening in the last couple of weeks or last couple of days. And there have been sisters, multiple sisters, that have experienced miscarriages lately. And I've talked to a lot of you, and the one thing that you all have in common is that you're not cursing the Most High. I know you're questioning your faith, questioning if you're doing something wrong, but I don't think that's what's going on here. And that's why I'm led to take a short break from Revelation. We're going to be in the book of Job and in the book of John today. And we're going to talk about suffering, because a lot of us are suffering right now. And I think we should take lead from the two people who probably suffered the very most as human beings that served the Most High, Job and our Messiah, Yeshua. So we're going to talk about that today. And there's something I'd like to ask from each and every one of you, if you can. Most of you are not in a financial position to help each other out. I know that if I asked you guys to tithe what you would send me what you could so that we could help each other in the community. I know you guys would, even if it was just $20. You guys would send me everything in your budget to send, but that's not what I want to ask today. I don't want to ask for any financial things for any of you or me right now. I want to ask for prayer and fasting. So I hate this term, but I want to ask you guys to do a corporate fast this coming Monday. And I know some of you have health issues and you may not be able to partake. So I'm going to ask for a short fast. And the reason I'm going to ask for it on Monday is because I want the YouTube folks that are seeing this on Sunday to be able to take part too. So if you are suffering, or if you would like to support the other members in our community that are suffering, I'd ask you to fast with me just from sunrise to sunset, 12 hours on Monday, and pray for each and every person in this congregation. We need some help, and only the Most High can provide that for us. So, like I said, we can't help each other financially, but I don't think that's what we need to do right now. I've talked to each and every one of you. Even in your bad situations financially, you're getting by, and in your health situations, you're getting by. I mean, so on Monday, sunrise to sunset, I want you guys, if you would, with me, to fast and pray for everybody else in this community. I know that we don't all get to see each other in person. I know that most of us haven't met in person. Some of you guys, I don't even know your real names. I feel closer to you guys in a lot of ways than I feel to even my own family sometimes. Just because of what I assume Yeshua said. My mother and my brother and my sister are those who do the will of my Father. You guys are some of the only people that I know that do the will of the Father, which means that you are my sisters, you are my brothers, you are my mothers, you are my fathers spiritually. You know, we are here for each other in that aspect. And I think it will be powerful if we all fast together and pray, even for just that 12-hour set of time. I wish that I could, this is the only time I wish I was rich, that I could just help you guys all financially. I know I can't help money doesn't help everything, you know. Some of you have physical scars from pain and trauma, and losing a child is the most horrible thing that anyone can go through, and multiple people have experienced that the last couple of weeks. So money doesn't fix that type of stuff, but I think prayer and fasting most certainly can help. So that's why I'm not asking for us to help each other in any type of material way. I want us to help each other in a spiritual way, and I think the Father's going to listen to us. So that is what the topic is going to be today, suffering. And we're going to look at two of the people that suffered some of the most. Two people that are righteous before the Father. Two people that suffered needlessly. I want to examine those today and talk about it for a little bit. And I hope that some of you feel better about your suffering walking away from this. I don't know if you will. I know suffering's hard. I don't like it. Nobody likes it, you know. But there's a reason that this is happening to all of us. And I don't know exactly what that is. The Most High said he was going to test us. He's testing his people. He's weeding out the wheat from the chaff. He's trying to find the diamonds in the rough. And sometimes we have to suffer because of that. And we shouldn't curse the Most High when we have to go through these times of testing. And I think a lot of people do. I hear a lot more people question God than Satan. And you know what? I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. We're gonna talk about Job. So, and you guys will have to excuse me. I have some cool washcloths. Got an ice pack. You might have some fan noise. Every fan that we own is blowing. It's a hot one in my house today. It's pretty brutal, and I know I could probably rationalize calling an HVAC guy on Shabbat. I could probably say, you know what? My kids, I don't want anything bad to happen to them. It's 90 degrees. This isn't safe. You know, I'm sure I could, but I think Satan wants me to get to break Shabbat. And I think Satan is testing Ken and Tiffany, making their vehicle break down to come and fellowship with me in person. I think that Satan's wanting us to do things that go against the Most High, and I don't want to fall into the trap. So people survived for thousands of years without HVAC. People survived for thousands of years without cars. I mean, at the end of the day, I know we're all suffering, but it's nothing that we can't get through, especially together. So let's jump into this. Again, sorry if I get kind of flushed or have to dab my head. I feel like I am preaching to you guys in front of an oven door that's open right now. But it's okay. I got my fans. My babies are okay. They got their ice bottles. So we'll be all right. We'll be able to make it another day or two until we can get an HVAC guy out here. But of course, it happened during the hottest time of the year. So anyways, it is what it is. Satan working hard to get us to go against the Most High. So anyways, let's do this. I want you guys to flip open to Job with me. And I know a lot of you don't have the Septuagint yet. So just to make it easy, we're going to be in the Masoretic, any Bible you can grab. So we're just going to flip open to Job. We're going to read chapters 1 and 2, and we're going to talk about them. And then we're going to jump into John chapter 11, and then we're going to jump back to Job for a little bit. So let's start again with Job chapter 1, if you guys are following along. All right. There was a man in the land of Uz whose name was Job. And that man was blameless and upright, one who feared God and turned away from evil. There were born to him 7 sons and 3 daughters. He possessed 7,000 sheep, 3,000 camels, 500 yoke of oxen, 500 female donkeys, and very many servants, so that this man was the greatest of all the people of the East. His sons used to go and hold a feast in the house of each one on his day. I assume this is talking about birthdays. His sons used to go and hold feasts on each one on his day, and they would send and invite their 3 sisters to eat and drink with them. And when the days of the feast had run their course, Job would send and consecrate them, and he would rise early in the morning and offer burnt offerings according to the number of them all. For Job said, "It may be that my children have sinned and cursed God in their hearts." Thus Job did continually. So just to recap what's going on here, it's pretty obvious, but I want to talk about it a little bit. Job, by old day standards, likely would have been what we would consider a millionaire. He had everything that your heart could desire at the time he was living. To possess that many animals, and remember, animals back then is money. Animals today are still money. So Job had a lot of money. He had servants, he had kids, he had a wife, he had the life. So by any modern day standards, Job was a very, very wealthy person. And I want you to think about this, because this is pretty incredible. Job would give offerings to the Most High in case his kids sinned or cursed God in their heart. Just in case. Like, he didn't know for sure. He didn't know if they were doing that. He was giving offerings to the Most High just in case they sinned. And that's a pretty incredible thing to do. I don't really see anybody else in the Bible doing stuff like this. So, just want to set the stage about what a good dude Job is. Now, let's continue. We're going to be in verse 6. Now there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord. Remember, sons of God can be people, it can be angels. All angels are sons of God. And this plays into talking about the Trinity and all that, but that's not what this study's about. So we're not going to talk about the Trinity today. Most of you guys know where I'm at with that one and know that I have videos about it, but this plays into that. So, verse 7. Let's read that over again. Now there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan also came among them, because he's a son of the Most High. The Lord said to Satan, "From where have you come?" Satan's answer is interesting. Satan answered the Lord, and he said, "From going to and fro on the earth and walking up and down on it." So he's patrolling the earth even back then, and he's still doing it now. I mean, 2 Corinthians 4 goes as far as to say Satan is the god of this earth. People are serving that god. They're serving money. They're serving material possessions. And Satan is doing everything he can to turn people away from God. And make no mistake, he doesn't care about the people he already has. That's why it seems like they're prospering, because there's no opposition before them. He's not trying to make them suffer. He wants them to be very content so that they don't end up turning to the Most High. Because a lot of times suffering ends up turning us to the Most High. It's not nice, fun things. It's not being rich. It's not owning yachts. It's not financially prospering. Those things don't turn a heart to the Most High. You know what does, though? Suffering. And I can speak firsthand on this one for those of you that have heard my testimony. Suffering really, really hardcore is what turned me to the Most High. Hard times make strong people, and they make you closer to the Most High. And Satan doesn't want that. So that's why all these bad people seem to be prospering. because there's no opposition before them for earthly things. Satan puts opposition before people to get them to turn from the Most High. Sometimes it has the desired effect. Sometimes it has the opposite effect. But at the end of the day, all those people that are not suffering, I mean, let's be real here. There's a good chance they're not serving the Most High. There's a good chance they're not actually serving Him. And Satan's not going to put opposition before them because, again, he wants them to be content and fulfilled with the things that he has allowed them to have. Because that's not the type of stuff that breeds a relationship with the Most High. We're going to expand on this later, but let's keep reading. All right. Satan's patrolling the earth. Verse 8. And the Lord said to Satan, have you considered my servant Job, that there is none like him on the earth, a blameless and upright man who fears God and turns away from evil? Then Satan answered the Lord and said, does Job fear God for no reason? Have you not put a hedge around him and all his house and all that he has on every side? You have blessed the work of his hands, and his possessions have increased in the land. But stretch out your hand and touch all that he has, and he will curse you to your face. And the Lord said to Satan, behold, all that he has is in your hands. Only against him do not stretch out your hand. So Satan went out from the presence of the Lord. Now, here's an interesting thing. Let me go back. If God, the Most High, puts a hedge of protection around you, then nothing can touch you. There is absolutely nothing that can harm you. And we see this playing out with Balaam and Israel. Remember, I've brought this up a lot. There's a reason it's mentioned a lot throughout the scriptures. Balaam told these guys that wanted to curse Israel, he said, you cannot. It's impossible. God has his hedge around them. You can't curse them. There's nothing you can do. But you can get them to curse themselves. And that's exactly what they did. They cursed themselves by going against the Most High. This other nation enticed them to sinning, and they sinned, and they removed themselves from that hedge of protection. And this can happen to us in either of these aspects, right? Satan wanting us to turn away from the Most High for various reasons, or him putting stumbling blocks before us to get us to curse ourselves. Sometimes bad things happen because you've cursed yourself, and sometimes bad things happen because it's a test. God said over and over and over again that he was going to test us. I want to pull up just one reference of this in the Torah. Give me 1 second. Where are you? All right, we can read Exodus 16:4 as one of them. Then the Lord said to Moses, behold, I'm about to rain bread from heaven for you, and the people shall go out and gather a day's portion every day, that I may test them whether they will walk in my law or not. Then we can go to Deuteronomy. Let's see. We can go to Deuteronomy 13 is a good one. Let's go to Deuteronomy 13 real quick and read that. Let's start from... Well, we'll just read like verses 1 through 4. If a prophet or dreamer of dreams arises among you and gives you a sign or wonder, and that sign or wonder that he tells you comes to pass, and if he says, let us go after other gods which you have not known and serve them. And remember, you may not literally be saying this, because everyone will be like, well, I wouldn't listen to that guy. But remember, if you're not doing what God asks, you're serving another god. That's a biblical concept. That's not my opinion. So if you just choose to not do what God said, you're worshiping another god. The god of yourself, the god of this earth, the god of possessions, the god of whatever. So it may not be as literal as this. It may not be as obvious as most people think. Verse 3, you shall not listen to the words of that prophet or dreamer of dreams, for the Lord your God is testing you to know whether you love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul. You shall walk after the Lord your God and fear him and keep his commandments and obey his voice, and shall serve him and hold fast to him. So he's going to test us. And rightfully so. Rightfully so. He is trying to show everybody, yourself included, that you deserve to be in his kingdom, that you withstood the test, that you deserve that crown of life that he is going to give you. And a lot of people think that God needs to prove himself to us. Well, that's not the case. In fact, the exact opposite. We need to prove ourselves to God. He doesn't have to prove jack to us. He created everything. He created you and me. He created our children. He created everything. We wouldn't exist without him. And look at the people in Exodus, constantly testing the Most High, even though he showed his power to them. Even though they witnessed it with their own eyes, his power, they tested him. And you know what? For all those of you that read the beginning of the Bible, did that go well for them? Did it? You shall not test the Lord your God. That's a concept all through the Bible. Old, New Testament, doesn't matter. It's constant throughout. You shall not test the Lord your God. And people want to constantly test him. And people don't realize sometimes that they are testing him with their actions and their feelings. They don't realize that that's what they're doing. So, make no mistake, God doesn't have to prove himself to us. We have to prove ourselves to him. And you know what? Maybe it's a good thing that we have to go through these sufferings. Because now you know in your heart, you know that you really are serving him. You know that you can withstand the test. That you can go through the suffering and still serve him. You can stand up there on Judgment Day and you can hold your head high and look at Yeshua and say, I really did my best. I really did my best. I tried to be like you. And you can mean it. A lot of people can't say that and mean it. But if you withstand this suffering and you don't curse God, and you bless him in the good and in the bad, I think you can stand up there and you can say that and you can mean it. And I think it's going to go a long way. I mean, I'm not your judge. I have no say in what happens to you on Judgment Day. This is my opinion. But I really think that it would go a long way with the Most High and with Yeshua. I think it's going to go a lot further than saying, you know what? I never even tried because Jesus paid for it all. Again, that's my opinion. You all have your own walks. So I can't say for sure in that capacity. But throughout my biblical studies, I feel like that would go an awful long way. A lot longer of a way than saying, oh, well, I didn't keep Sabbath. I didn't keep this. I was mad at you when bad things happened to me, but it's okay because Jesus paid for it all. I don't know. You guys can make your own choices. That is my opinion, though. All right, let's keep going. So, Satan he's been given free rein to test Job. He can't kill Job, but he can do pretty much everything else under the sun to him. Now, let's see what happens. Verse 13. Now there was a day when his sons and daughters were eating and drinking wine in their oldest brother's house. And there came a messenger to Job and said, the oxen were plowing and the donkeys feeding beside them. And the Sabaeans fell upon them and took them and struck down the servants with the edge of a sword. And I alone have escaped to tell you. While he was yet speaking, there came another and said, the fire of God fell from heaven and burned up the sheep and the servants and consumed them. And I alone escaped to tell you. While he was yet speaking, there came another. The Chaldeans formed 3 groups and made a raid on the camels and took them and struck them down and the servants with the edge of the sword. And I alone have escaped to tell you. While he was yet speaking, there came another and said, your sons and daughters were eating and drinking wine in their oldest brother's house. And behold, a great wind came from across the wilderness and struck the 4 corners of the house. And it fell upon the young people and they are dead. And I alone have escaped to tell you. Pay attention to this next part. Then Job arose and tore his robe and shaved his head and fell on the ground and worshipped. And he said, naked I came from my mother's womb, and naked shall I return. The Lord gave, and the Lord has taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. In all this, Job did not sin or charge God with wrong. Can you think about that? I don't think a lot of us can really put ourselves in that footsteps. Although I know some of you are experiencing some of the very same things Job did. You're experiencing financial loss. You're experiencing the loss of children and family members. You're experiencing friends turn on you, which happens later in the book of Job. You're experiencing your spouse turn on you, which is what happens later in the book of Job. I mean, in all this, Job didn't sin or curse God with wrong. That alone right there speaks to the type of man that Job is. And we could argue all day long about, why people suffer, why God allowed this, why he didn't protect him. God knew Job. God knew what he was going to do. So why did he allow Satan to test Job? Maybe he did it for Job's benefit. Maybe he did it for our benefit. I tend to think that the story of Job is for us, so that we understand that suffering isn't always what we think it is. That there's something deeper going on behind the curtain, something that we don't fully understand. And at the end of the day, whether we suffer or not, we have to understand that everything is God's. He can give it to us and he can take it away from us, and that's his prerogative. This includes your finances. This includes your children and your spouse and everything that you have. It's his. All of it is his. He can take it away if he wants. And there might be a good reason for it. We might not see it as a good reason. But I see the story of Job as being for us, so that we can understand suffering better and realize that we're not the only ones going through it. And that there's something good waiting on the other end of that suffering, whether we can see it or not. There's something good waiting on the other end of Job's suffering. There's something good waiting on the other end of Yeshua's suffering. That goes to all the prophets, all the disciples. They all suffered. And there's something good waiting for them on the other end of it. But the fact remains, God tested these people, and through thick and thin, they made it through. They didn't curse God. They didn't turn their back on him. And what Satan thought would turn these people away from God ended up not doing it. And maybe it's so that they can stand before the judgment throne of the Most High and be able to say, I did my best. Maybe. Just maybe. That's my opinion. So, let's keep going. Chapter 2. Again, there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan also came among them to present himself before the Lord. And the Lord said to Satan, from where have you come? Satan answered the Lord and said, from going to and fro on the earth, walking up and down on it. There he is, patrolling again, looking for people to turn away from God. And the Lord said to Satan, have you considered my servant Job, that there is none like him on the earth, blameless and upright, fears God and turns away from evil? He still holds fast to his integrity, although you incited me against him to destroy him without reason. Without reason. Now, sometimes there's a reason for suffering. That's our fault. Maybe we're sinning. Maybe we have removed the hedge of protection around us by going against him. That's an option. Right? But sometimes that's not the case. Sometimes you're blameless before the Most High, and your suffering isn't for a reason. I can't know that. Only you can self-examine and know that for sure. But the point remains, Job, there was no reason. He was a righteous, blameless man. He went so far as to sacrifice to God for his kids on the off chance that maybe they sinned in their heart. There was no reason for Job's suffering. He was a righteous, blameless man. So, there might be a reason for your suffering in that regard, and there might not be a reason, right? Like, I would encourage you all to self-examine and say, am I sinning against the Most High? Is this a Balaam situation or is this a Job situation? Because it's the same outcome, but different reasons that they started. So, anyways, food for thought. Verse 4, then Satan answered the Lord and said, skin for skin. All that a man has he will give for his life. But stretch out your hand and touch his bone and his flesh, and he will curse you to your face. So Job still had his health. Job had lost everything, but still had his health. And Satan said, you know what? It's not really a true test. It's not a true test, because once you start making him suffer in the flesh, then he's going to turn away from you. There you go. Satan always trying to do whatever he can do to get you to turn from God. Physical pain, financial loss, loss of a spouse, loss of friends. You name it. Satan has the power to do those things on the earth. Let's keep going. Verse 6. And the Lord said to Satan, behold, he is in your hand. Only spare his life. So Satan went out from the presence of the Lord and struck Job with loathsome sores, from the sole of his foot to the crown of his head. And he took a piece of broken pottery with which to scrape himself while he sat in the ashes. Imagine the suffering Job's going through. Then his wife said to him, do you still hold fast your integrity? Curse God and die. There's his spouse turning on him. But he said to her, you speak as one of the foolish women would speak. Shall we receive good from God and shall not receive evil? That's a mighty fine question, Job. And one I want you all to think about. Shall we accept good from God and not the bad? And sometimes when you really take a step back and look at your suffering, it's not that bad. I mean, yeah, it's uncomfortable. Yeah, it's not fun. Yeah, we would choose not to go through it, but maybe it's not that bad. You know, it's almost 90 degrees in my house. It sucks. It sucks. It's pretty miserable, but it's not that bad. You know, it could be a lot worse. Some of you lost some of your finances. That sucks, but it's not that bad. You know, and again, I can't speak to all your situations. I don't know. I don't know all of them. I don't know how bad they all are. Sometimes only you know that. But at the end of the day, if we take a step back and look, I think we can understand that if we really think about the grand scheme of things, it's not that bad. I mean, look at what Job's going through. And then in a little bit, we're going to look at some of the stuff our Messiah went through. That's bad. That's real bad, what they're going through. Some of the stuff we're going through shouldn't even be compared. Isn't even on the same level. Maybe it is. I don't know your situations. But I know for my situation, it could be a lot worse, you know? And I just want to do my best to be more like Job. Anyways, let's keep going. All right. In all that Job did, in all this, Job did not sin with his lips. Again, that's incredible. And I don't know. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I don't think I could do what Job did. I don't think I'm even on the same level. I don't think I could make it as far as Job made it. He's a great example. A great example of what we should be in times of suffering. And I don't know that I would even be able to deal with what he was dealing with a shadow of the integrity and dignity that he did it with. And the book of Job doesn't tell us how long this went on. I'm inclined to believe that it wasn't just a few days. I think the main loss all came one after the other. But this whole process could have been weeks, months. It could have been over a year. Job could have been dealing with this. He could have been homeless with sores and boils and have not a penny to his name and no friends and no wife. He could have been enduring that for months or possibly years. It doesn't tell us. I'm inclined to believe that it was longer than any of us could make it in the same situation. I would believe it's at least months. It's at least months that Job was going through this. And it's another interesting point to see how Satan can do the things he does. Satan can take away our finances. Satan can kill our family members. Satan can take away our health. He can take away our health. And in the book of Jasher, when Abraham was taking Isaac to sacrifice him, when they were on that journey, Satan turned into people. He turned into an old lady. He turned into a young man. And he was trying to talk people out of doing this. He tried to talk Isaac out of it. He tried to talk Abraham out of it to get them to turn away. And he became a flood. A literal, actual flood. So he can control even the weather. Water and wind. It says that wind is what killed Job's children. So Satan has the ability to even control the weather at times. And I find that very interesting. Because that flood you're going through, that tornado, that earthquake, could be Satan working that angle. It's just, it's very interesting, a lot of the stuff going on in this book. And I know we could spend an awful lot of time talking about it. But I'm going to try to get through. Yeah, exactly. Lori, he tricked Sarah and she died. Right? He freaked Sarah so bad. He freaked her out so bad she had like a heart attack and died. So it's, again, we could spend an awful lot of time talking about this, but we have a lot more to cover. So we'll briefly jump in on this topic and keep talking about it. But let's keep reading. We're at verse 11. Now, when Job's 3 friends heard of all the evil that come upon him, they came, each from his own place. Eliphaz and Temanite, but Bildad the Shuhite, and Zohar the Naamathite. Man, these names tongue twist me every time. They made an appointment together to come and show him sympathy and comfort. And when they saw him from a distance, they did not recognize him. And they raised their voices and wept, and they tore their robes and sprinkled dust on their heads towards heaven. And they sat with Job on the ground 7 days and 7 nights. And no one spoke a word to him, for they saw that the suffering was very great. Now, those are some good friends to do that with you. A lot of us don't have friends that would do that. But the friends end up saying some stuff they shouldn't say. And they end up making it not a fantastic situation. But I want to jump to John 11 real quick. But I encourage you all to keep reading Job, since we're not doing a full study on this. The next chapter 3 are when things get brutal for Job. Brutal. I mean, he is cursing the day he was born. He hates life so much that everything is just miserable. I mean, the whole next chapter is just really sad to read. And it's something that I think some of us could relate to in regards to suffering, where your suffering is so bad in this moment that you hate that you were ever even born. You hate that you ever lived. I know that is exactly how I felt right before I came to the Most High. Right before he was gracious and merciful enough to reveal himself to me, before I killed myself. I was in this moment with Job. I had felt in that moment I had lost everything. I had lost my finances. I had lost my girlfriend. I had lost my friends. I had lost my home. And again, I am not trying to compare myself to Job. I certainly did not handle that like Job did. I went the exact opposite way that Job did when all that happened to me. I went further and further away from God. Really, really bad. But he was gracious and merciful enough to reveal himself to me and to put me on a better path. So again, even now, with all the knowledge that I have, if I had to go through some of this stuff Job went through, I don't know that I would be able to handle it like he did. I really don't. I'm just being honest with you guys. He went through some really, really terrible stuff that I didn't even have to experience, and stuff that I just pray I never have to experience. And maybe Job's test was greater because of everything that the Most High afforded to him. Now, I want to talk about this for a second before we jump into John. So, it seems like the closer you are to the Most High, the higher of a standard you are held to, which is a turnoff for a lot of people. They're like, well, I don't want to be closer to the Most High then. But look at David. It says that David was the only man in the Bible called a man after God's own heart. And it says that he only willfully sinned in the matter of Bathsheba and Uriah. In his entire life, that's the only time he willfully sinned and went against the Most High. He was held to a standard that the vast majority of us are not. And with good reason, because he knew the Most High. He knew things that we don't know. He had insight that we don't have. And he had to go through it. Look at how David was tested. And when he willfully sinned against the Most High, a lot of people had to die because of that. It was a punishment on the country because of what David went through. Or what David did in that moment. But even when David unintentionally sinned, it had great consequences. And David stayed true to the Most High through his whole life, considering all the things that he went through. David didn't have it easy either. I mean, he had people trying to kill him when he was younger. He had the king of Israel going after him. Right? He had nations constantly warring against him when he took power. His own son tried to take power from him and did terrible things, and ended up getting killed because of this. I mean, David experienced the loss of a child, an older child and a younger child, in the womb. So David went through it too, and he was still a man after God's own heart. He stayed true to the Most High through all of it, and he understood the consequences, and he didn't say, well, that's not fair. That's unjust. Why are you doing this to me? Why do I have to go through this? And I just pray, because I really want to bring this up, this whole study, because if we are the generation of the second Exodus, if we are the end times generation, I think things are going to get really, really, really hard for us. Really hard for us. I mean, to an extent that we can't possibly understand. And if we are that generation, and if we do have to go through these things, I think it's important for us to understand suffering and look at the other people in the Bible and understand their suffering. And I think we need to try our best to not make the same mistakes. Right? I'm not talking about all of them. Some of these things were out of their power, right? But sometimes it was in their power to control the situation they were in, at least in some stance. Like if we're in the wilderness and God is raining manna from the sky for us, if we were in the Exodus, if we're in the second Exodus, if we're surviving in the wilderness and God's raining manna from the sky for us, maybe we shouldn't do what they did in the first Exodus. Maybe we shouldn't grumble and say, I want meat. Give me meat. They constantly grumbled. They constantly tested the Most High. They wanted to go back to Egypt. They wanted to go back to Egypt. That's how bad it was. They wanted to go back to slavery and captivity. They wanted to be bond servants of a pagan nation. That's how bad it was in their eyes. And even though they witnessed the majesty and glory of the Most High firsthand in a way that none of us have gotten to experience it, they still went against him and tested him. And again, if we understand suffering, and if we understand what the people before us did, then if we are the generation that has to go through hard times for the Most High, I want us to be the generation that doesn't fail him. The generation that doesn't curse him in the wilderness when we lose everything. The generation that doesn't test him. And I think if we understand this, it will help. I'm not saying it'll make it any easier, but I think it will help. So, Tammy, exactly. Let's armor up, people. And remember, even though we don't know each other's names, even though we've never met in person, We are each other's brother and sister and mother. Well, we are each other's family, right? Which is why I want us to fast and pray together on Monday. We can help each other in that regard. So let's stand with each other even though we're not together. And let's be the body of Messiah that glorifies God through our suffering, right? Albeit terrible or not that bad, whatever your level is. So again, I talked about this before. I want you guys to make connections. I want you guys to reach out to each other. I want you guys to pray for each other. I want you to pray for me, my family. I want to pray for you. So we can help each other that way for sure. But let's keep going. I encourage you all to read more of Job, especially if you're going through hard times in your life right now. It's really rough. It's really rough, some of the things that you guys are having to go through. So we've looked at a little bit of Job's suffering. Now let's look at some of the Messiah's suffering. I want to flip to John chapter 11. Now I want to examine this from a different aspect. We all understand the physical suffering that Yeshua went through for us. Like, I mean, I know we haven't gone through it, but we all have seen it and understood it. We understand the pain and suffering and misery of him getting whipped and him dragging that cross and him being nailed to it, him not being able to breathe on that cross because his lungs were filling with fluid. I mean, that is a physical level of suffering none of us have gone through. And he didn't have to go through that. He didn't need to go through. He didn't deserve that. I think we understand that aspect of his suffering. But I think there's an aspect of suffering that a lot of us don't consider, which is why I wanted to talk about it today. And his emotional suffering. The things that he had to go through on earth as well. Because remember, I don't deny the divinity of our Messiah. But it's not how the Trinity teaches. That is for darn sure. It is not what the Trinity teaches. And I think when Christianity as a whole says that you can't obey God unless you are God, that takes away from everything that he withstood for us. Everything he went through. I think Yeshua was just as tempted in the flesh as we were. And he was able to turn away from it. So, we can talk about that for a long time too. But either way, Yeshua had to suffer physically and emotionally. And I want to talk about some of his emotional suffering that I don't think a lot of people consider. We know his physical suffering. Let's talk about some of his emotional suffering. Let's go to John chapter 11, and we're going to read quite a bit. Down to like 50, 51, I think, in there. So if you want to follow along with me, if not, I'm going to read it for you here in just a second. All right. Now a certain man was ill, Lazarus of Bethany, the village of Mary and her sister Martha. It was Mary who anointed the Lord with ointment and wiped his feet with her hair, whose brother Lazarus was ill. So the sisters sent to him, saying, Lord, he whom you love is ill. But when Jesus heard it, he said, This illness does not lead to death. It is for the glory of God, so that the Son of God may be glorified through it. Now Jesus loved Martha and her sister and Lazarus. So when he heard that Lazarus was ill, he stayed 2 days longer in the place where he was. Then after this, he said to the disciples, Let us go to Judea again. The disciples said to him, Rabbi, the Jews were just now seeking to stone you, and are you going there again? Jesus answered, Are there not 12 hours in a day? If anyone walks in the light of day, he does not stumble, because he sees the light of this world. But if anyone walks in the night, he stumbles because the light is not in him. After saying these things, he said to them, Our friend Lazarus has fallen asleep, but I go to awaken him. The disciples said to him, Lord, if he has fallen asleep, he will recover. Now Jesus had spoken of his death, but they thought that he meant taking rest in sleep. Then Jesus told them plainly, Lazarus has died. And for your sake, I am glad that I was not there, so that you may believe. But let us go to him. So Thomas called the twin and said to his fellow disciples, let us also go that we may die with him. Now when Jesus came, he found that Lazarus had been dead in a tomb 4 days. Bethany was near Jerusalem, about 2 miles off, and many of the Jews had come to Martha and Mary to console them about their brother. So when Martha heard that Jesus was coming, she went and met him. And Mary remained seated in the house. Martha said to Jesus, Lord, if you had been there, my brother would not have died. But even now I know that whatever you ask from God, God will give you. Jesus said to her, your brother will rise again. Martha said to him, I know that he will rise again in the resurrection on the last day. And this is an interesting point too. These people are understanding that he will rise again on the resurrection. But it doesn't change the fact that he's gone and not with them for the rest of their lives on this earth. That they're never going to get to see his face again. That they're never going to get to experience the embrace and the love. And that's a hard thing to think about. You know, I know that most of us have enough faith to understand that there is a resurrection. And there's a good chance we might get to partake of it. But it doesn't change the fact that when you lose somebody or something very important to you, like a child in the womb, or, you know, your brother or your sister or your mother or your father, a friend, very close friend, it doesn't change the fact that that hurts a lot, right? And Jesus is experiencing this. We're going to get to see him experience this. He knows what's to come better than probably anyone that's ever lived. He knows about the resurrection. He knows who is going to be risen. He knows what's going to happen. And still, he goes through the same emotional suffering in this moment that we have to experience. And I think that's amazing and interesting and all kinds of things. Let's keep reading. Verse 25. Jesus said to her, I am the resurrection and the life. Whoever believes in me, though he dies, yet shall he live. And everyone who lives and believes in me shall never die. Do you believe this? She said to him, yes, Lord, I believe that you are the Messiah, the Son of God, who is coming into the world. Again, this isn't the whole point of what we're talking about today, but we have to understand what it means to really believe in Jesus. And this is something that the church doesn't teach anymore. They're not talking about an intellectual belief. Yes, that's part of it. We all have the intellectual belief of Jesus. But do you have enough belief in him to change your life? Do you have enough belief in him to do what he asked you to do? And he told you to obey God's commandments in the Torah to the best of your ability. He told you to walk in his footsteps, literally, and to be like him. He told you to go and sin no more. He told you to believe Moses. Do we believe him enough to do that? Because a lot of times your lip service doesn't matter. Titus 1:16, Matthew 15, 8 through 9. Your lip service doesn't matter. It's your actions that matter. Do you believe him enough to continue to obey God through your suffering? To keep not sinning. To keep not cursing him. To keep not testing him through the worst things in your life and the best things in your life. Do you believe in him enough to do that? Is the real question. And that is what God is trying to figure out. That is why he's testing us. If it was an intellectual belief, we would all pass. Even a lot of the mainstream Christians would pass that test. If it was an intellectual belief alone, they would pass. I have met so many mainstream Christians that I know they believe in Jesus. I know intellectually in their heart, they believe that Jesus was the Son of God, that paid for their sins, that rose from the grave, that is the one that lets them into the kingdom of heaven. I know so many mainstream Christians that believe that. So why would they need to be tested? Exactly, Tammy. They don't have the works to prove that belief. They believe in him, but they're not willing to change their lives because of that belief. God's trying to test you to see if, through good or bad, you believe in his son enough to be worthy of the sacrifice that he gave you. And you know what? I don't blame him for that. Makes perfect sense to me. Look and think about what Jesus went through. I'm not even talking about the emotional stuff that we have yet to get to. We're going to get there. I'm talking about the physical stuff now. Look at the physical stuff that he had to suffer and endure for you for absolutely no other reason than because it's for you. He didn't have to do that. He didn't deserve any of it. He deserved absolutely zero of his suffering. None of it. He didn't deserve to be chastised verbally. He didn't deserve to get whipped. He didn't deserve to get nailed to a cross. He didn't deserve to sit up there and suffer, barely being able to breathe, with a crown of thorns stuck on his head and spikes through his wrists and his feet. He didn't deserve any of that. None of it. He didn't sin against God at all, which is something none of us can say. Not even Job. We have all at some point in our life sinned against God. And we are not worthy of the suffering that Yeshua went through for us. But if I was going to try and place myself in the footsteps of God and try to look at it from his point of view, which is impossible. It's impossible, but it doesn't mean that we can't do a little mental experiment here. Just try to put yourself in his footsteps. His son, his beloved, that did absolutely nothing wrong, had to physically and emotionally suffer in the worst ways that a human being can suffer. And again, he didn't deserve it at all. He had to go through this so that people like you and me could be cleansed and grafted back into the covenant. Again, something most Christians don't understand. And people are using him like a dollar bill to pay for their willful disobedience. And you think that's not going to piss off God? It would piss off me if that was my son on that cross. I would be furious with you people. If my little son or my daughter had to get put up on that cross, if they had to go through what Yeshua went through, and you treated them like a dollar bill to pay for your willful sinning, I would not spare you. I wouldn't spare you. You do not deserve my sinless son and my sinless daughter's sacrifice and suffering when you do stuff like that. You know what might make me feel like you do deserve it, though? Again, this is me. This is my opinion. This is me trying to put myself in the footsteps of God. Me trying to understand his perspective. This is all opinion. I have no bearing on your judgment day. But if I was to put myself in his shoes and try to understand, if I had to put my son or my daughter, and they're little, they're sinless right now. They are the sweetest, kindest, gentlest, just pure things ever. And if they had to go through what Yeshua went through, physical and emotional suffering for no reason, for you, and you didn't listen to anything my son said, when he said, obey my father's commandments, go and sin no more, do what God commanded Moses for all his people, do it to the best of your ability. And if they didn't listen to that, if they didn't listen to my sinless son when he told them that, and they used him as a dollar bill to pay for their willful sinning so that they could get into the kingdom of God and still break Sabbath, break dietary laws, break laws for adultery, break laws for theft, any of the laws that God says leads to death, any of them. If they used my son to pay for that, I would not spare them. I wouldn't spare them. And I don't blame him at all if he doesn't spare any of you. or me for treating his son like that, I wouldn't spare you if I was in his footsteps. So, again, I understand that none of us deserve his suffering and his sacrifice for us. None of us deserve it. But, if someone listened to my son when he said, go and sin no more, if someone listened to my son when he said, walk in my footsteps, live a life pleasing to God, I would consider that. I'd say, you know what? That goes a long way with me. And he is testing you and me and all of us to see if we deserve the sacrifice of his sinless son. If we even a little bit deserve it. If he puts you through a shadow of the suffering that his sinless son had to go through, what are you going to do? Are you going to curse him? Are you going to test him? Are you going to sin and use his son as a dollar bill to pay for it? Seems to me, if I was to put myself in God's shoes and try to objectively look at the situation, I can understand his wrath. And I can understand his testing. I can understand why he gives and why he takes away. And at the end of the day, I really truly don't deserve what his son did for me. None of us do. And that should be a reason why we obey God. Not a reason why we disobey God. And I want all of you to think about that. I know a lot of you in here follow me every week. I know you believe this. I know you do the best to walk in the commandments and to be like Yeshua. I know that you guys are enduring the suffering that you're going through. But maybe someone in here isn't. Maybe someone in here needs to hear this. Maybe someone in here needs to really understand suffering. It's my opinion. I don't know. But if I was to put myself in God's footsteps, in his shoes, I can understand why he lets good people suffer. And I can understand his wrath against everyone. Destroying the earth with a flood. I can understand that wrath. The tribulation. I can understand that wrath. I get it. Now, does this mean that I will act with the integrity of Job come my true time of testing, when it's not just my AC unit that goes out? Can I act with the integrity of Job? I don't know. I do not know. I hope so, but I don't know. Either way, though, it's good to consider this stuff and to think about it and to try and mentally prepare yourself for the idea that our suffering is going to get really bad if we are in the tribulation. Really bad. Anyways, let's keep going. I want to talk again about Jesus' emotional suffering, Yeshua's emotional suffering that he went through. So we are in verse 28. When she had said this, she went and called her sister Mary, saying in private, "The teacher is here and is calling for you." And when she heard it, she rose quickly and went to him. Now Jesus had not come into the village, but was still in the place where Martha had met him. When the Jews who were with her in the house, consoling her, saw Mary rise quickly and go out, they followed her, supposing that she was going to the tomb to weep there. Now when Mary came to where Jesus was and saw him, she fell at his feet, saying, "Lord, if you had been here, my brother would have not died." When Jesus saw her weeping, and the Jews who had come with her were also weeping, he was deeply moved in his spirit and greatly troubled. And he said, "Where have you laid him?" They said to him, "Lord, come and see." Verse 35, Jesus wept. Imagine Imagine our Messiah weeping, even though he knows that Lazarus is going to get raised in the last day. Even though he knows the good things waiting for him and for all of us who really, truly believe. He still broke down emotionally. I mean, that's crazy. That's something I don't think a lot of people consider. Maybe they do. I don't know. I know I haven't spent enough time considering that. He emotionally broke down. He didn't have to. He knew he was going to raise Lazarus. He knew that Lazarus was about to wake right back up. And still, he had that same tugging emotion that rips your heart out of your chest when you lose somebody that you love. That is how I know he was human. That's how I know he suffered in the flesh and endured the same temptations that we do in the flesh. He just did it in a way that we are not strong enough sometimes to do. And some of you are, and there have been people that were strong enough. But it moves me that he was moved. That this hit him so hard, he was weeping with everybody else. It brings it to home for me, Like I can feel it. I can feel his suffering a little bit more there. I can relate with him a little bit more there. Anyways, verse 36. So the Jews said, "See how he loved him." But some of them said, "Could not he who opened the eyes of the blind man also have kept this man from dying?" Then Jesus, deeply moved again, came to the tomb. It was a cave, and a stone lay against it. Jesus said, "Take away the stone." Martha and the sister of the dead man said to him, "Lord, by this time there will be an odor, for he has been dead 4 days." Jesus said to her, "Did I not tell you that if you believed, you would see the glory of God?" Really believe. So they took away the stone, and Jesus lifted up his eyes and said, "Father, I thank you that you have heard me. I knew that you always hear me, but I said this on account of the people standing around, that they may believe that you sent me." Remember, the God that allows suffering and testing of us is the one who sent us Jesus. I mean, a lot of people can't separate judgment and love. They can only understand one or the other. This is why most mainstream Christians only see the God of the Old Testament as bad. That was a bad dispensation. That was a bad whatever. But he's grace and love now. No. He's been the same always. He was always grace and love and mercy. He was always a God of wrath and judgment. From the beginning to the end, he's the same God. Malachi 3:6, "For I, the Lord, do not change." He sent us Yeshua. Think about that still. He loves us so much that he's willing to give you that chance to come into his kingdom even though we don't deserve it. Through the blood of his son, who willfully did that for us. That's a whole nother thing. Yeshua willfully did this for us. He didn't have to. He chose to do it. God didn't have to send Jesus to us. He chose to do it. God doesn't have to have mercy and grace and love on us because we don't deserve it. But he chose to give us the chance to experience it. God doesn't love everyone, contrary to popular belief. But God is willing to love anyone. You have to turn away from evil. You have to fear him. You have to do what is right. You have to live a life that is acceptable to him, considering what Yeshua did for us. You have to live a life in honor of what Yeshua did for us, knowing that you can't be as good as he was. Knowing that you can't live up to the plumb line of righteousness that he set. You still have to do your best. And again, if I was to put myself in his footsteps, in his shoes, the Most High, the people that use my son as a dollar bill to pay for sins, those aren't the people I would let in my kingdom. But the people who try to honor him, using their life as a living sacrifice, trying their best not to sin, trying their best to be Christ-like, those are the people I would show grace, mercy, and love towards. People that understood the sacrifice that was before them. People that understood the reason for their suffering. Remember what Jesus said. Pick up your cross and follow me daily. We have to suffer with him. We may not have to suffer as great as he did. We may not have to suffer the exact same way. But guess what? We're going to have to suffer. This world hates us. Satan hates us. Satan wants us to curse the Father and to turn away from a life that is worthy of the sacrifice of Yeshua. Satan wants our suffering to turn us away from God. And sometimes it works. But sometimes it doesn't. We need to be those people that don't curse God when we're in the midst of trials, suffering, testing. And it's going to be hard. It's going to be really, really hard. But we can rest assured that we're not the only ones that have to go through it. Each and every one of you in this live stream, you're going through some form of suffering. But you have each other. We know that we can pray for each other. We may not be able to do anything else, but we can pray and fast for each other. And that's powerful to the Most High. We're all suffering in some way, shape, or form. Definitely not like Yeshua had to suffer for us. But we are suffering. It may not be that bad when you really consider it up against what Yeshua went through. But still, I'm not trying to take away from your suffering. It's bad. It sucks to suffer. But Yeshua suffered the most horrible things, and he did not have to. And he did not deserve it. And he did it so that we might be able to enter into the kingdom of God and experience what's waiting for us on the other side of that suffering. Something that, again, none of us can possibly understand. A greatness that is impossible for us to comprehend right now. Let's keep reading. Verse 42. Verse 41. Let's go back to 41. So they took away the stone. Jesus lifted up his eyes and said, Father, I thank you that you have heard me. I knew that you always hear me. But I said this on account of the people standing around, that they may believe that you sent me. When he had said these things, he cried out with a loud voice, Lazarus, come out! The man who had died came out, his hands and feet bound with linen strips, and his face wrapped with cloth. Jesus said to them, Unbind him and let him go. To witness that, I want to read a little bit further. Many of the Jews, therefore, who had come with Mary and had seen what he did, believed in him. But some of them went to the Pharisees and told them what Jesus had done. So the chief priests and the Pharisees gathered the council and said, What are we to do? For this man performs many signs. If we let him go on like this, everyone will believe in him, and the Romans will come and take away both our place and our nation. But one of them, Caiaphas, who was high priest that year, said to them, You know nothing at all, nor do you understand that it is better for you that one man should die for the people, not that the whole nation should perish. This is interesting. He said this, he did not say this of his own accord, but being the high priest that year, he prophesied that Jesus would die for the nation. And that's what he did. He died for the nation of Israel. He died so that we could be cleansed before the Father. He died so that we could be grafted back into that covenant that we don't deserve. And this guy unintentionally prophesied this while plotting against Jesus. That's wild. And he did die so that the whole nation may not perish. That nation is us, people. He died so that the whole nation, us, may not perish. That's powerful. Really powerful. A little bit more. Verse 52. And not for the nation only, but also to gather into one the children of God who are scattered abroad. So from that day on, they made plans to put him to death. Verse 52 is what I really wanted to focus on. And not for the nation only, but also to gather into one the children of God who are scattered abroad. That's us. One body, one way to serve God. We all have different functions, we all have different forms, but we are all one body. There's neither Jew nor Greek. There's neither slave nor free. There's only one in the body of Messiah. That is us. Yeshua's body suffered. Our bodies might have to suffer too. But it's all for a good reason. It's all for a really good reason. Even though we can't see it yet. I want to go back to Job. And we're going to read the last couple of chapters. I believe it starts in chapter 38. I'm going to try to read through this. It's a lot, so I may not stop very much and talk about it, but this is, we've passed from Job's suffering for however long he had gone through this. Weeks, months, years. We've gone through all that. Job lost his children. Job lost his finances. Job lost his wife. Job lost his friends. Job lost his children, his health, everything. He lost it all. And now we're getting to the point where he has something to say. Where he says, you know what, God, I didn't deserve this. Why? Why are you making me suffer like this? Why? Let's see. Job 38, for those of you following along. Then the Lord answered Job out of the whirlwind and said, who is this that darkens counsel by words without knowledge? Dress for action like a man. I will question you and make it known to me. Where were you when I laid the foundations of the earth? Tell me if you have understanding. Who determined its measurements? Surely you know. Or who stretched out the line upon it? On what were its bases sunk? Or who laid its cornerstone? When the morning stars sang together and all the sons of God shouted for joy? Or who shut the sea with its doors when it burst out from the womb? When I made clouds its garment and thick darkness its swaddling band, and prescribed limits for it, and set bars and doors, and said, thus far shall you come and no further. And here shall your proud waves be stayed. Have you commanded the morning since your days began, and caused the dawn to know its place, that it might take hold of the skirts of the earth, and the wicked be shaken out of it? It is changed like clay under the seal, and its features stand like a garment. From the wicked their light is withheld, and their uplifted arm is broken. Have you entered into the springs of the sea, or walked in the recesses of the deep? Have the gates of death been revealed to you, or have you seen the gates of deep darkness? Have you comprehended the expanse of the earth? Declare if you know all this. Put yourself in Job's footsteps. Put yourself in his shoes while I read this. God is speaking to you through your suffering. Put yourself in his footsteps for this. Where is the way that the dwelling of light, and where is the place of darkness, that you may take it to its territory, or that you may discern the path to its home? For you were born then, and the number of your days is great. Have you entered the storehouse of the snow, or have you seen the storehouses of the hail, which I have reserved for the time of trouble, for the day of battle and war? What is the way to the place where the light is distributed, and where the east wind is scattered upon the earth? Who has cleft a channel for the torrents of rain, and a way for the thunderbolt, to bring rain on the land where no man is, on the desert in which there is no man, to satisfy the waste and desolate land, and to make the ground sprout with grass? Has the rain a father? Or who has begotten the drops of dew? From whose womb did the ice come forth? And who has given birth to the frost of heaven? The waters become hard like stone, and the face of the deep is frozen. Can you bind the chains of the Pleiades, or loose the cords of Orion? Can you lead forth the Mazzaroth in their season, or can you guide a bear with its children? Do you know the ordinance of the heavens? Can you establish the rule on the earth? Can you lift up your voice to the clouds, that a flood of water may cover you? Can you send forth lightning, that there may go and say to you, here we are? Who has put wisdom in the inward parts, or given understanding of the mind? Who can number the clouds by wisdom, or who can tilt the water skins of the heavens? When the dust runs into a mass, and the clods stick fast together, can you hunt the prey for the lion, or satisfy the appetite of the young lions, when they crouch in their dens, or lie in wait in their thickets? Who provides for the raven its prey, when its young ones cry to God for help, and wander out for lack of food? Chapter 39. Do you know when the mountain goats give birth? Do you observe the calving of the does? Can you number the months that they fulfill? And do you know the time when they give birth, when they crouch, bring forth their offspring, and are delivered of their young? The young ones become strong. They grow up in the open. They go out and do not return to them. Who has let the wild donkeys go free, and who has loosed the bonds of the swift donkey? To whom I have given the arid plain for his home, and the salt land for his dwelling place. He scorns the tumult of the city, and hears the shouts of the driver. He ranges the mountains and the pasture, and he searches after everything. Is the wild ox willing to serve you? Will he spend his night at your manager? Can you bind him in the furrow with ropes, or will he harrow the valley after you? Will you depend on him because his strength is great, or will you leave to him your labor? Do you have faith in him that he will return your grain and gather it to your threshing floor? The wings of the ostrich wave proudly, but are they the pinions and plumage of love? For she leaves her eggs to the earth and lets them be warmed on the ground, forgetting that a foot may crush them, and that the wild beast may trample them. She deals cruelly with her young, as if they were not hers. Though her labor be in vain, yet she has no fear, because God has made her forget wisdom, and given her no share in understanding. When she rouses herself to flee, she laughs at the horse and its rider. Do you give the horse his might? Do you clothe his neck with a mane? Do you make him leap like the locust? His majestic snorting is terrifying. He paws in the valley and exults in his strength. He goes out to meet the weapons. He laughs at fear and is not dismayed. He does not turn back from the sword. Upon him rattling the quiver, the flashing spear, the javelin, with fierceness and rage, he swallows the ground. He cannot stand still. And the sound of the trumpet. When the trumpet sounds, he says, "Aha!" He smells the battle from afar. The thunder of the captains and the shouting. Is it by your understanding that the hawk soars and spread his wings towards the south? Is it at your command that the eagle mounts up and makes his nest on high? On the rock he dwells and makes his home, on the rocky crag and stronghold. From there he spies out prey. His eyes behold it from far away. His young ones suck up blood, and where the slain are, there he is. I mean, can you really understand the depth of what we just read? God is saying to Job, who finally cracked, who finally broke, man who didn't deserve the suffering he was going through, finally cracked and questioned God. Can you imagine God saying this to your face? I would cower in fear. Are you the one that makes it rain? Can you command it? Are the animals yours? Do they bow to you? Do they worship you? Will they listen to your command? You don't understand anything. You don't understand the corners of the earth. You don't understand how I make the weather. You can't move the stars. You really start to see how insignificant we are in the power of God. And we question Him? We question Him. Wow. We don't deserve the right to test Him. We can't test Him. And you see now, maybe, why God was so angry at all the people that did test Him. I know I can understand it a little bit better now. God doesn't have to prove Himself to us. We have to prove ourselves to God. That's the whole point of this study. So that we can understand this. So that maybe when we go through our sufferings, we don't curse Him. We don't question Him. We don't disobey Him. Maybe. We might be able to do this when we understand a little bit better. And I want to keep reading. Because Job is starting to understand this very same thing in chapter 40. Or is it 41? Either coming up. Job's about to very much understand this. And the Lord said to Job, "Shall a fault finder contend with the Almighty? He who argues with God, let him answer it." Then Job answered the Lord and said, "Behold, I am of small account. What shall I answer you? I lay my hand on my mouth. I have spoken once and will not answer. Twice, but I will proceed no further." He understood now. He was like, I really need to shut up. I really need to shut up and not question God. Then the Lord answered Job out of the whirlwind and said, "Dress for action like a man. I will question you, and you make it known to me. Will you ever put me in the wrong? Will you condemn me that you may be in the right? Have you an arm like God, and can you thunder with a voice like His? Adorn yourself with majesty and dignity. Clothe yourself with glory and splendor. Put out the overflowing of your anger, and look on everyone who is proud and abased him. Look on everyone who is proud and bring him low, and tread down the wicked where they stand. Hide them in all the dust together. Bind their faces in the world below. Then will I also acknowledge to you that your own right hand can save you. Behold, Behemoth, which I made, as I made you. He eats grass like an ox. Behold his strength in his loins, and his power in the muscle of his belly. He makes his tail stiff like cedar. The sinews of his thighs are knit together. His bones are tubes of bronze, his limbs like bars of iron. He is the first of the works of God. Let him who made him bring near his sword. For the mountains yield food for him, where all the wild beasts play. Under the lotus plant he lies, in the shelter of the reeds, and in the marsh for his shade, and lotus trees cover him. The willows of the brooks surround him. Behold, if the river is turbulent, he is not frightened. He is confident, though Jordan rushes against his mouth. Can one take him by his eyes, or pierce his nose with a snare? Verse 40 or chapter 41. Can you draw out Leviathan with a fish hook, or press down his tongue with a cord? Can you put a rope in his nose, or pierce his jaw with a hook? Will he make many pleas to you? Will he speak to you soft words? Will he make a covenant with you to take him for your servant forever? Will he play with him as with a bird? Or will you put on him a leash for your girls? Will traders bargain over him? Will they divide him up among the merchants? Can you fill his skin with harpoons, or his head with fishing spears? Lay your hands on him. Remember the battle. You will not do it again. Behold, the hope of man is false. He is laid low, even at the sight of him. No one is so fierce that he dares to stir him up. When then is he who can stand before me? Who has given to me that I should repay him? Whatever is under the whole heaven is mine. Whatever is under the whole heaven is mine. It's all God's. All of it. I will not keep silent concerning his limbs, or his mighty strength of his goodly frame. Who can strip off his outer garments? Who would come near him with a bridle? Who can open the doors of his face? Around his teeth is terror. His back is made of rows of shields, shut up closely with a seal. One is so near to another that no air can come between them. They are joined one to another. They clasp each other and cannot be separated. His sneezing flash forth light, and his eyes like the eyelids of the dawn. Out of his mouth go flaming torches. Sparks of fire leap forth. Out of his nostrils come forth smoke, and out of the boiling pot and burning bushes his breath kindles coals, and a flame comes forth from his mouth. In his neck abides strength, and terror dances before him. The folds of his flesh stick together, firmly cast on him and immovable. His heart is hard as stone, hard as a lower millstone. When he raises himself up, the mighty are afraid, and crashing they are beside themselves. Though the sword reaches him, it does not avail, nor the spear, the dart, or the javelin. He counts iron as straw and bronze as rotten wood. The arrow cannot make him flee, and from slings stones are turned to stubble. Clubs are counted as stubble. He laughs at the rattle of javelins. His underparts are like sharp potsherds, and spreads himself like the threshing sled on the mire. He makes a deep boil like a pot, and he makes the sea like pot of ointment. Behind him leaves shining wake, and would think the deep to be white-haired. On earth there is not his like, a creature without fear. He sees everything that is high, and he is king over all the sons of pride. Now, he's talking about an animal here, but I don't think he's really talking about an animal. I think, in a way, he's talking about himself. And I could be wrong. This is my opinion on the matter, so take that as you will. But he's describing this creature that nothing can stand against it. Absolutely nothing. No, nothing a human can do can stand against this. And it's the same with him. We can't stand against God. You can't go up there and hurt him. You can't control the things that he can control. So in a way, I'm kind of now seeing this like him describing himself to us in a way that we might be able to understand. Like, who are you to question me? You can't hurt me. You can't control what I can control. You can't do anything. You know, who are you to speak against me, to stand against me, to question me? Who are you? That's how I see it in this moment. Again, it's my opinion. Maybe he is just describing an animal. But I see a spiritual implication here in what he's describing. Let's keep going. Chapter 42. Then Job answered the Lord and said, I know that you can do all things, and that no purpose of yours can be thwarted. Who is this that hides counsel without knowledge? Therefore I have uttered what I did not understand. See, this is Job. This is Job finally understanding this. Therefore I have uttered what I did not understand. Things too wonderful for me, what I did not know. Hear, and I will speak. I will question you and make it known to me. I had heard of you by the hearing of the ear, but now my eye sees you. Therefore I despise myself and repent in dust and ash. After the Lord had spoken these words to Job, the Lord said to Eliphaz the Temanite, my anger burns against you and against your two friends, for you have not spoken of me what is right, as my servant Job has. If you go back and read, they were saying, what did you do against God to deserve this? It was you. You did something against God. They were saying all kinds of stuff that wasn't true, because Job didn't incite this against himself. This isn't a Balaam situation where the people did it to themselves. This was a situation where he didn't deserve it but had to go through it. Right? And his friends were questioning this. They're saying, what did you do? How did you piss off God? You deserve this somehow, some way. God was mad at them for that because they didn't deserve it. And you can look at this as a foreshadow for Christ. All the people saying, look at the suffering he's going through. He deserved that somehow. All right? We're not doing this in our day and age. Maybe some people are, but we're not. But back in the day, there were a lot of people saw Yeshua up on that cross and thought the same thing that Job's friends thought. They said, hey, he did something to deserve it. You don't go through this kind of suffering if you're in right standing with God. Well, I wonder what he did. He must not be the Messiah. He must have done something wrong. He must be a rotten sinner. That's why he's going through all this suffering. And guess what? God's going to be very, very mad at those people, just like he is at Job's friends. Something to think about. I'm going to read that verse again. After the Lord had spoken these words to Job, the Lord said to Eliphaz the Temanite, my anger burns against you and against your two friends, for you have not spoken of me what is right, as my servant Job has. Now therefore take 7 bulls and 7 rams, and go to my servant Job, and offer up a burnt offering for yourselves. And my servant Job shall pray for you, for I will accept his prayer, not to deal with you according to your folly. For you have not spoken of me what is right, as my servant Job has. So Eliphaz the Temanite, and Bildad the Shuhite, and Zophar the Nemathite went and did what the Lord had told them. And the Lord accepted Job's prayer. Remember, Proverbs 28:9. He who turns his ear away from my law, even his prayer is an abomination. You can't turn your ear away from his law if you want your prayers to be heard. And you can't judge wrongly. You can't always say this person deserves their suffering. Sometimes they do, but sometimes they don't. And a lot of times it's not your place to say at all in either situation. All we can do is try to be in right standing with the Most High and understand that we don't have the right to question him through good or bad. And that our prayer can be powerful. And that's exactly why I want all of us to fast and pray on Monday, sunrise to sunset, if you missed the beginning of this stream. Any of you that are willing, I hope you will fast and pray with me that day. From sunrise to sunset, I'm not going to eat any food, have any calories. I'm probably going to drink water, though, because my AC unit's out and it's 90 degrees in my house. I don't know if I can get it fixed before then. But I'm going to drink water. But I'm not going to have any calories. And I'm going to pray. So, only water for me. I hope you guys will join and pray for your brothers and sisters. Fast and pray. Well, you going to fast and pray with me? You don't have to fast. I know. I want to get you cookies. Yeah, take a drink. It's hot. Sorry. My assistant came in here. She needed a drink. I need a drink too. 1 second. Oh, can I have a sip? She wants more. All right, let's finish up Job. Verse 10. And the Lord restored the fortunes of Job when he had prayed for his friends. And the Lord gave Job twice as much as he had had before. Then came to him all his brothers and sisters, and all who had known him before, and ate bread with him in his house. And they showed him sympathy and comforted him for all the evil that the Lord had brought upon him. And each of them gave him a piece of money and a ring of gold. And the Lord blessed the latter days of Job more than the beginning. And he had 14,000 sheep, 6,000 camels, 1,000 yoke of oxen, 1,000 female donkeys. And he had 7 sons and 3 daughters, and called the name of the first daughter Jemimah, and the name of the second Keziah, and the name of the third Karen Hapuk. And in all the land there was no women so beautiful as Job's daughters, and their father gave them an inheritance among their brothers. And after this Job lived 140 years, and saw his sons, and his sons' sons' 4th generation. And Job died an old man and full of days. That is something I hope we understand. And child of the Most High, I guess you weren't in the beginning of this, a lot of us are going through testing right now. There are people that are taking hits to their finances, to their health. They're losing their spouses. Their kids are turning away from them. They're losing friends. All these kinds of bad things are happening to good people that are trying to serve the Most High. And I want us all to pray for each other. I want us to fast and pray for each other. And the Lord will hear our prayers. So Monday during the day, we will be fasting. Those of you that can, I understand some of you have health problems. You may not be able to. But for those of you that are and are willing, I encourage you to fast and pray with me on Monday for our brothers and sisters that are going through suffering. Job prayed for his friends, and the Lord heard him, and he restored the fortunes of Job. It's honestly a good story for our benefit and to help us understand suffering a little bit better. Now, one big thing is, in this book it acknowledges that the Lord allowed this evil to come upon him, right? But it was for a reason, and we don't have the right to question that reason. So yes, the Most High could step in if he wanted to. Maybe there is a good reason that he is not. And we all deserve to be tested and to go through suffering, to live a life worthy of the sacrifice of Yeshua. But I want you all to remember this. Through your suffering, whether we're here with each other, whether we're in the second Exodus and tribulation, or whether your car broke down, whether it's just your AC unit, whether you are experiencing some kind of health problem, I want you to remember this. Flip open to Romans chapter 8 with me. I want you guys to read Romans 8:28 with me. And I want you to think about the suffering of our Messiah. I want you to think about the suffering of Job. I want you to think about your own suffering. And I want this verse to come into your head when that time, if that time may come. Romans 8:28. And we know that for those who love God, all things work together for good, for those who are called according to his purpose. We might not know the reason for our suffering. Maybe it's just so that we can better appreciate what our Messiah went through. Maybe, I don't know. There's so many different reasons why we may be going through suffering. So many different reasons. I can't name them all, and I don't know all your situations. But I do know that this verse is true. Let's read it one more time. Romans 8:28. And we know that for those who love God, all things work together for good, for those who are called according to his purpose. And for you who are especially full of wisdom in the word, we know what it means to love God. We know what it means to believe in Jesus. But for those of you that may be new here, flip open to 1 John 5, 2 through 3. 1 John 5, 2 through 3. By this we know that we love the children of God, when we love God and obey his commandments. For this is the love of God, that we keep his commandments, and his commandments are not burdensome. So I want to read John 14:15, the words of our Messiah. John 14:15. If you love me, words in red, if you love me, you will keep my commandments. Two big things to take away from that verse. One, it says that a prophet of God and the Messiah would speak God's word. So this is God speaking through Yeshua, our Messiah. If you love me, you will keep my commandments. Secondly, even if that's not how you want to examine the words of Yeshua, what did Yeshua command us? Matthew 19:17, if you would enter life, keep the commandments. Matthew 23, 1 through 3, do and observe everything found in the Torah. Matthew 28, 19 through 20, go to all nations of the world and teach them to do what I have commanded you. John 5, 46 through 47, if you believe Moses, the Torah, you would believe me, for he wrote of me. But if you don't believe his writings, how will you believe my words? Jesus said, go and sin no more. Sin is defined as transgression of the Torah, transgression of God's laws in the beginning of the book. We know that to truly believe in God, or truly believe in Jesus, and to truly love God, there has to come a sacrifice with that. A physical, actual sacrifice. Not just lip service. Not just intellectual belief. Again, like we talked about earlier in this, if it was just an intellectual belief, so many people would pass the test. So many people. I have met hundreds and hundreds of mainstream Christians that I know intellectually believe in Jesus. But they don't believe in him enough to give up some of the things that God told us to give up. They don't believe in him enough to obey the commandments that God gave us that's in their power to do. And I don't think that's what belief really means in Scripture. I know that's not what belief really means in Scripture. Let's flip back a few chapters in John. John 3:36. Whoever believes in the Son has eternal life. Whoever does not obey the Son shall not see life, but the wrath of God remains on him. And again, for those of you that weren't with us earlier, if it was my son up on that cross, and you were using him as a dollar bill to pay for your willful sins, and you weren't crucifying your flesh, you weren't obeying my commandments like my son told you to do, I wouldn't be bringing you into my kingdom. My wrath would remain on you for putting my sinless son through that for you. And then that's how you live a life in honor of that. In honor of that. You don't honor Jesus at all when you disobey God's commandments. And a lot of people are going to learn that the hard way. When it's too late to turn and repent. A lot of people are going to learn that when it's too late. And it's really, really sad to me. And that is why I am here on this app right now, talking about this with you guys. Hoping that one of you might wake up, might listen, might turn your life onto that really narrow path that few find. Many are called, but few are chosen. I want to be called and chosen. And I certainly don't do it perfectly, but at least I understand the implications of it all. And most people don't. But either way, when you're going through your suffering, I want you to remember Romans 8:28. And I want you to remember 1 John 5:2-3. I want you to remember John 14:15. I want you to remember John 3:36. I also want you to remember this in James. I can't remember if it's chapter 1 or chapter 2. I think it's chapter 2. Let me check real quick. I want you to remember this. James chapter 2, verse 5. I want you to remember James chapter 2, verse 5. Listen, my beloved brothers, has not God chosen those who are poor in the world to be rich in faith and heirs of the kingdom which he has promised to those who love him? Now we know what that means. God's love language is obedience. And whether our suffering is just or not, we do not have the right to question the Most High and to test the Most High. Especially considering what he and his son were both willing to do for us so that we might enter a kingdom that we don't deserve to enter. So, I'm going to spend a little bit of time with you guys in the comments, talk to you guys. If you have any prayer requests, if you want me to bring up anything in regards to you. Some of you guys, I didn't feel it was my business to mention names, especially on some of your more traumatic losses, like the few women that are going through the pain of miscarriage, or the people that are going through the pain of their adult children turning away from them because of following Torah. It's not my place to say or name names, but I know some of you are going through financial loss. I don't think you would mind if I shared that. Losses to your income, losses to your vehicles, financial hardships, physical sufferings from pain. A lot of you are going through it hard. And I am going through a bit of suffering of my own. Not just the AC unit, but I'm going through a bit of it on my own. And I really don't think that it's a coincidence that all of us that gather together weekly are going through these things all at the same period of time. Satan's not after the ones he already has. He's after the ones who are blameless before God. And part of what he does is use suffering to try and turn you away. To try to get you to curse the Most High. To try to get you to question your faith. And he's good at it. So that's why I felt it necessary to have a study on this today. I hope in some way, shape, or form it's helped you guys that maybe didn't understand biblical suffering. Yes, Mary, there is a ton of spiritual warfare going on. And I'm not mentioning all of it. There have been a lot of people coming to me experiencing some form of spiritual warfare, coming to my wife and talking about that. There's a lot of stuff going on right now, and maybe it's because we're ticking closer to the end. I don't know for sure yet if we are that tribulation, that end times generation. I don't know if we're that second Exodus generation. But if we are, these sufferings might be to prepare us for what's to come. so that we may not turn away when things really get hard for us. So, anyways, next week we're going to be back in the book of Revelation on Shabbat, and we'll wrap that study up. Well, we're not going to wrap it up next Shabbat. We still got a bit to go, but we're going to keep going in that study. Tuesday, we are going to begin the Shepherd of Hermas study. So if you can be with me Tuesday night on TikTok, 7 p.m. Central Time, it will be restreamed on my YouTube the following day. But if you can join me Tuesday, we'll be going through the Shepherd of Hermas study. We'll be starting that. It's a really good one. Another one that I think all believers should have in their pocket. And then a lot of you have really enjoyed the fellowship and talking that I did with Brother Luke from Leaving Churchianity this last Thursday. If you missed that, that is also on my YouTube. It was a really good one. Our main topic were the errors of dispensationalism. I thought it was an amazing conversation, good fellowship. We have talked about doing something like that again very soon, hopefully in the next few weeks. It's good to have fellowships like that. It is just really beneficial to me. It was beneficial to Luke. And I know a lot of you said it was beneficial to you. So we're going to try and do that again soon. I'll give you the details when I know for sure when that will be. We're trying to shoot for the next couple of weeks. So anyways, if you guys need anything, need any prayers specifically, feel free to ask in the chat. Feel free to email me. Feel free to call or text me. But what you guys have been telling me hasn't gone unnoticed or without prayer. But today, I didn't want to be the only one praying for you guys. I want you all to be praying for each other, which is why I'm asking for this corporate day of fasting and prayer on Monday. And that would be Monday, I guess that would be the 17th, Monday, June 17th. So some of you might be watching this like way later down the road. It wouldn't be bad for you to still fast and pray. But for those of you that catch the live stream today, and those of you on YouTube that are watching it on Sunday, on Monday, I would like us all to fast and pray for each other as a community, as brothers and sisters of the Most High. And again, like I said, I really want you guys to make connections with each other. I want this to be a community, whether we ever meet each other in person or not. Whether we do or not. Because again, most of you, a lot of you, I don't even know your real names. Just recently, I'm starting to meet more and more of you. And it's really, really nice. It's a blessing to me. And I hope that we can get some Sukkot plans nailed down and that maybe you guys can come and fellowship during Sukkot with me this year. I don't have everything figured out yet, but that's what we are going to try and be doing. And I hope that we can make that happen. But if not, it doesn't change the fact that we are God's people. We are His nation scattered abroad. We are few and far between. A lot of us don't have anybody else other than the people right here on this live stream. So I want you guys to pray and fast for each other. Whether you know everybody's suffering or not, whether you know everybody's names or not, the Most High knows who you're praying for. He knows who you're praying for. Messiah Yeshua knows who you're praying for. So just pray. On Monday, fast and pray, sunrise to sunset, and I think it will be powerful that we are doing it together. To pray for each other's financial hardships. To pray for the sufferings of each other. Physical, emotional, whatever it may be. Some of you are losing your homes. Some of you are losing your jobs. Some of you can't keep Shabbat because of your job. Some of you don't make enough money to pay for your bills. Some of you have physical sufferings that a doctor cannot solve. I want you to pray for each other. So please do that on Monday with me. And hopefully soon, we'll begin to see that light at the end of the tunnel. Suffering is not forever. Suffering is not forever. Sometimes it's for a long time, but it's not forever. And I want you guys to remember that. No matter how long your suffering is, days, weeks, months, years, I want you to remember that. There's a lot of good men that went through a lot worse things than we're going through in the Bible. And they had to go through it for days and weeks and months and years. We need to be like them. Or we need to be better than them, depending on the situation. We need to learn from their mistakes. Learn from our forefathers and foremothers, and not fall into the same traps and trip over the same stumbling blocks that Satan keeps setting down for us day in and day out. So, thank you guys for being with me on this study. I really, really hope it blessed you. Last night, I think I got an hour, maybe 2 hours of sleep. I barely slept. It was miserably hot in my house last night. And that whole time I was awake, I was just thinking about Job's suffering and Yeshua's suffering. And I kept looking at my Bible, and I just knew that I had to speak about this today and call for us to support one another through prayer and fasting. So, anyways, again, I hope it benefited you in some way, shape, or form. I hope at the very least, maybe some of you that are going through hardship can take a step out of that and say, you know what? Maybe what I'm going through isn't as bad as I was making it seem to myself. So anyways, love you guys. Thank you for being here with me. I'm going to pray for you. You guys pray for me. Like I said, I want to hang out with you guys for a little bit in the chat. If there's anything you need or just want to talk, let's hang out for a little bit before we wrap up the study. I can't stay too long. I probably need to go rinse my babies off with some cold water. I need to rinse myself off with some cold water. It's hot. And then after Shabbat, I'm going to call an HVAC guy, and I'm going to pray that it's only a couple of $100 worth of Freon, and then I don't need a brand new AC unit, because that would stink. $6-8 grand. That would suck. And again, I'm not asking for any financial help from any of you. I know that the Most High can get me through these things. I know that He can provide a car for you guys whose vehicles are broken down. I know that He can provide supplemental income for you guys that have lost some. I know that He can provide me with money or a loan or anything to get an AC unit if, worst case scenario, I needed to buy a new one. So I know that I can get through these things. It's not that bad a suffering, all things considered. But it doesn't change the fact that it's unpleasant to deal with, So I know a lot of you are going through that too. So I'll put a call in after Shabbat, and hopefully we can get that figured out. Whether it's worst case scenario or best case scenario, we're going to get through it. And I know you guys will too. I know you'll get through your various sufferings. And most of you that I have talked to have tackled it like pros. All of you are telling me these horrible things that are happening to you, and then you're saying, you know what? Most High's going to get me through it, though. I have faith in Him. I bless Him. I praise Him. Thank you, Most High. Thank you, Yeshua. They're going to get me through it, So through your sufferings, I know that you guys are still understanding that you will get through it. And that makes me proud to be a part of this community, to be part of you guys, just people that really have a heart for trying to serve the Most High, and heart for walking in the footsteps of our Messiah, Yeshua. I'm proud to be a part of this community, and like I said, I want you guys to understand that you are a community, that even though you're only a name on a screen right now, that we can't meet in person, that we don't have a brick and mortar to go to every week to worship together, that we can't always spend feast days together. I want you to understand that you are each other's community. And we have the power to help each other, even if we can't do it with our wallets. And most of you can't. Most of you can't, and I understand that. I've been there. I've been there where I don't have 2 nickels to rub together. So I understand that too. And so anyways, I just want you guys to understand that we can help each other. We are a family, even though we're spread far apart and we're few and far between. And even though we can't gather together like a lot of us would like to. So Just understand that and pray for each other. That will help each other. I know that us coming together as a community and praying for each other and fasting for each other will go a long way. So we're going to do that Monday, those of you that can. And those of you that can't, I understand. For whatever reason, I understand that for health reasons or whatever. I do understand that not everybody can fast. So you'll be with me in spirit. Just pray. You can still pray. Even if you're not fasting, you can still pray. And you know what? Even if you can't physically fast from food, there are other things that you can fast from. There are other ways you can afflict yourself. You can fast from social media. You can fast from TV. You can fast from foods that you really enjoy. Maybe you eat something to just get you by. Not something that's like, hey, this is really, really good. This is my favorite thing to eat. There are ways that you can still be part of this fasting and prayer, even if you can't physically deny yourself food for health reasons. So either way, if it is in your power to fast from something in some way, and if it is in your power to pray for your brothers and sisters in your community, I would ask you to do that with me and the rest of us that will be doing it on Monday. So thank you for all of you that are with me in spirit and with me online. Man, it would be heartbreaking if this platform went away and we weren't able to gather like this. I hope it doesn't happen. If it does, I guess I'll exclusively be on YouTube, and I hope we can still do it over there. But either way, I know that you guys are out there. All right, if the internet went away, I know that you guys are out there. I know that I have a community. I know that brothers and sisters are suffering with me and with our Messiah, and that you know that all things work together for good to those who love him. So, yes, you know what? For the love of y'all, that's a fantastic idea. I need to actually give you my actual number. Yes, you know what? For those of you, do me this favor. Anybody watching this, I have some of your contact information for some of you, but not all of you. Anybody that would like to be a part of this community in a greater way. I know some of you sit in the back and watch and don't always jump in, don't always talk, but I know you're here still. If you would like, email me, sheepdogministries@hotmail.com. Give me your name. Give me where you live. You don't have to give me your address. I just mean, I live in, Fort Worth, Texas, or whatever. Give me your name. Give me your screen name so I know who you are on here. Your actual phone number and your email address. And I would like to compile a list and email it out to each one of you so that you all have everybody's information. If you're willing to do that. If that's something you want to be a part of. So that if you wanted to reach out to one another, you could email each other, or you could call or text or whatever. And that way it would all be in one place. So when we have housekeeping stuff like feast day stuff, I could reach out to you. I could send a group email to everybody and be like, hey, this is what we're planning for Sukkot. If you would like to be a part of it, whatever. So I'll start compiling a list like that. And then if you want, send me that information. Whatever information you're comfortable sharing. It's still the internet. I get it. But I know for those of you that are with me every week, I'm not worried about you guys. I would have each and every one of you over to my house to stay with us, even if I never met you in person. I trust you guys. I love you guys. And the people that are in here every week, I know I don't have to worry about you guys. So I feel that way about you. Maybe that's not how all of you feel. It is the internet still. I get it. But for those of you that would like to be a part of maybe an email list and get some information from each other, send it to me, sheepdogministries@hotmail.com. I'll work on compiling that and then maybe making some kind of roster so that people could email each other or whatever. I don't know. That'd be great. So do that. And then, is there anything else while I got you guys? I'm sorry, I may not be able to answer you guys on YouTube. I'm not usually in the restreams. But if you comment, I can go back and look at the comments and answer you, or I can answer your email if you email me. But yeah, we'll talk about doing that And thank you guys for all of you that will be willing to fast and pray with me on Monday. Appreciate that. I was thinking about us writing email of each other's testimonies. That would be cool. That would be something I'd like to hear. I've heard a lot of your testimonies, but I wouldn't mind hearing more. I really, really like hearing where other people have come from and what you've been through, what you've endured, what brought you to the Most High. It's just really cool to hear these stories. It gives me a lot of encouragement and hope. So that's a great idea. That's a fantastic idea. Chezzy, you might need to watch this on my YouTube. It will restream tomorrow on Sunday. In a nutshell, we are fasting and praying for each other, for the sufferings that we're all going through. Because fasting and prayer goes a long way with the Most High, and we are each other's community. So on Monday, sunrise, sunset, fast from something. I'm going to be fasting from food. If you can't physically fast from food, fast from something that you enjoy. It doesn't matter what it is. A certain food that you like to eat. You don't have to eat it on Monday, you know. Maybe you really enjoy soda. Don't drink soda on Monday. I don't know. Maybe you spend a lot of time on YouTube or watching TV. Maybe don't do that if you can't physically fast, you know. But either way, your suffering, I don't know, you know, like a mini day of atonement here. Afflict yourself before the Most High for each other, for the members of our community in fasting and prayer. But I go into a lot of this through the last, 2 hours we've been doing this. So if you'd like to, it's going to restream on Sunday on my YouTube. Sheepdog Ministries over there. You can watch it, and then that's why I wanted to do the fast and prayer on Monday, so that all my YouTube folks that are only on YouTube, because I have quite a few of you that are only on YouTube, so that you could join with the rest of us and still partake. And I think it will go a long way before the Most High. Even if we don't see immediate relief from our suffering, even if we still have to endure, I think it'll go a long way with the Most High. And praying for our brothers and sisters in this very small community is good, and something that we don't do enough. So that's why we're doing it. All right. Yeah, as the body of Messiah. Exactly, Tammy. Is Zoom the same thing as Discord? No, my love. They're different. Zoom and Discord are different. Zoom would be cool to do with you guys every once in a while if you wanted to. I don't know. I wouldn't be opposed to doing that sometime, like a Zoom fellowship. If you guys wanted to jump in, show your faces, meet and greet, that'd be pretty cool. Actually, that's a good idea. Maybe I will try to figure out, once I get all your guys' information, whoever wants to give it, maybe I will do like a Zoom meet and greet, so that we can all, because I think Zoom's pretty easy to use on a desktop or on your phone. We used to use Zoom meetings at my work, but that would be fun. Like a meet and greet Zoom fellowship where we can all hang out, get to know each other, talk about whatever, the good things, the bad things in our life, our sufferings, our blessings, just meet each other, put a face to the name, talk to each other, pray for each other, learn more about each other. I think that'd be great. So maybe I'll look into trying to do something like that very soon once you guys start sending me information. Even if it's only a handful of us, I think that would still be a lot of fun. It might not be 20, 30, 40. It might not be the 60, 70 people that have been watching this live stream. It might be 5 or 10. Or it might be 70. It might be a little bit too much to go through it all if all 70 of you were on the Zoom. But, whatever. We can figure that out. I'm not worried about that right now. But it might be fun to do a meet and greet with you guys. So I'll try and think about doing that soon on a Zoom, or I don't know. If you guys have any suggestions about that, by the way, love to hear it. If you know any good ways that we could do some kind of Zoom type fellowship, that'd be easy for everybody to do. Send me the details. I'll look into it. See if we can do that. All right. Please remind us of the email address, sheepdogministries@hotmail.com. The link is in my bio on TikTok and on YouTube so that you can click it and go to my email. TikTok's really nice in that way. It has an email button, and if you just hit email, your email on your phone will pop up and email me directly. But if not, the link is in my bio page on TikTok and on YouTube. So yeah, I would need glasses to see 70 Zoom boxes. Yeah, it might get a little hard if we have a lot of people, but either way, we'll figure something out. All right. And again, I'd love your guys' ideas about that if you do have any. All right. All right, you guys. Perfect. Well, it looks like I'm mostly caught up on the chats. Thank you guys for spending this time with me. Thank you for those of you who will be fasting and praying with me on Monday. It was really easy to email you that way for sure. Good. I'm glad that it worked well. I know on TikTok, since I set up a business account, even though it's not a business, because they let you do a little bit more in a business TikTok than in a personal one. Like I can link my email to it and I can put my link tree on there. So that's why I did it. It was nice to do that. So anyways, I might make a short video about this too. I don't know. We'll see. I know that you guys that are always with me on the live streams, you guys are like kind of my core fellowship. And then I have a bunch of other fellow believers that comment on my short studies a lot. And I know I treat them as, I treat them as my family too, but not all of them can do the live stream every week, or they're going to another live stream, or they actually have a physical fellowship. So, it's different for all of us. But for those of you that the majority of what you do is online fellowship because you don't have anything local, I think this is what I'm gearing this towards. You guys, that we need that community, and to know that we have a community there for us, even if we're not in the same building, So that's kind of what I want to do this for. So maybe I won't make a short video about it. I don't know. We'll see. I'm not sure yet. I'm going to pray about that too. So we'll see. And yes, I will let you guys know about the AC unit situation, probably on Tuesday during the Tuesday Shepherd Hermas study. I should by then have it figured out what is going on, and hopefully maybe get it fixed by then, because this week, of course it happened right before Shabbat at the hottest time it's been all year. And for like a straight week, we're supposed to be in like the high 90s with no sun or no shade, no clouds, no breeze, no rain. It's just a miserable week. So of course it had to happen then, but hopefully it will be fixed by Tuesday. Prayers, hopefully. Oh, really? Well, they didn't have to do that. That's really, really nice.
They said, no, we're coming.
Well, an answer to prayers already. We have lovely people in the live stream that are actually about an hour and 15 minutes away from us. My wife just told me that they're going to drive their portable AC unit to us to help cool down the house. My wife, I guess, told them that they didn't have to, and I agree. Like I can suffer a little bit. You don't have to come do this, but apparently they insisted, and they're on their way to bring it to us. And see, that's what I'm talking about. We haven't even fasted and prayed yet, and somebody is already willing to drive an hour and a half to help me. And I know if anybody is near you, if any of you guys live anywhere near each other, I know that you would do the same for each other. And that's why I really want to make it more of a community. And I want you guys to know each other and learn if there are members of this community that are close to you, that are driving distance. So see, there you go. I don't know what's going to happen with our house AC unit yet, but somebody is already helping us. The Most High already answered a prayer that I haven't even sent up yet. And that is just a massive blessing to me. And that's what I'm talking about. The power of prayer, the power of this community is just astounding. Even though we're not close to each other, even an hour and a half, that's a long way away. That is a long way to drive. we only get to see them a few times a year, and it's just hard. We all have stuff going on. We have kids, we have jobs. It's hard to make time to do this stuff. But anyways, that's what I'm already talking. Prayers already answered. We're already getting help. And that's just amazing. And I know that you guys are willing to do that for each other, which is why I want to strengthen this community while we have it, while we have the ability to gather together online before things get tough, before internet goes away, before tribulation, before a second Exodus. If we are that generation, while we have the ability to be a community, I want us to be a community. I want us to be brothers and sisters to each other and to help each other how we can, whether it's financial or not. Prayer goes a long way. Talking to each other, sharing your sufferings goes a long way. And we're here to help each other. We don't want to be like Job's friends, that said, no, you deserved this somehow. How are you screwing up? How did you piss off God? We need to be the community that stands with each other and doesn't curse the Most High, doesn't blame God, doesn't judge unjustly. Because remember, we have the ability to judge each other. Even Paul says, is it not the church that we are supposed to judge? Let the outsiders do their own thing. Right? We're supposed to judge each other. We're supposed to lift each other up. We're supposed to help keep each other on the narrow path. We're supposed to help each other through sufferings. We're supposed to be like Job's friends in the beginning of the book, when they sat there with him in silence, in sackcloth and ash for 7 days, just to support him. That is the type of friends we need to be. Not later when we start saying, hey, no, how are you screwing up? How you deserve this somehow, So, anyways, I already see 4 or 5 of you have emailed me. I forgot to turn on my my no notifications thing, and I'm seeing emails come through right now. So I see at least 4 or 5 of you have emailed me. I know at least 4 or 5 of you I speak to on a fairly regular basis, whether it's through text or email. So I already have your information, but feel free to send it to me again so that I can compile all of it, whatever you want to do. I'm going to work on that over the next couple of weeks while some of this information trickles out. But anyways, answer to prayers already. Thank you guys. And I hope your prayers get answered and you all get the help you need through your suffering. We just need to understand that sometimes we have to suffer. And sometimes it's for a good reason, whether we see it that way or not. So sometimes help is on the way soon, and sometimes it's not. And we have to understand that through good or bad, we need to be those people that don't question the Most High, that don't stand against Him, that don't blame Him, that don't put it all on Him when we have plenty of our fair share. We need to be like Job. We need to be like Yeshua. We need to be like the apostles and the prophets. So anyways, through good or bad, do your best. Do your best. And people get to a breaking point, I understand, but we see what happened. See what happened to Job when he got to his breaking point. He got humbled hard, and he realized he really didn't have a leg to stand on before the Most High. It was fully in the Most High's right to take all of that away, and it wasn't wrong. It wasn't wrong what the Most High put Job through. A lot of people don't see it that way, though. A lot of people don't see it that way. But it was not wrong what the Most High allowed to happen to Job. So I hope understanding these things will help some of you throughout your suffering. Anyways, I'm rambling on. I'm beating a dead horse here, but thank you guys again for all of your support, all of your prayer. Thank you to you guys that are on your way to my house right now to bring us a portable air unit. I really appreciate that, and got to tell you, it'll be a nice reprieve. It's been hot, and I don't sleep well when it's really hot. We had fans on. We opened up windows when it finally cooled down at night. It was still pretty warm even at night, though. I don't think it dropped below 75. And man, there was no breeze, none. So I just didn't sleep very well last night, and I spent a lot of time thinking and praying and reading my Bible. And I'm really glad that we had this study together today. I think it was for all of us. So anyways, if you guys need anything, feel free to reach out to me. I look forward to our time of fasting and prayer together. I know it goes a long way. I know it goes a long way. Even if we aren't going to see immediate benefits from it, I know it's going to go a long way. So thank you guys for being with me. Looks like some of you are still chatting in the comments. Definitely don't want to shut it off while you guys are talking with each other. Suffering helps to humble us and draw us closer to Abba. I realized through my experience. Exactly. And me too. I probably would have never come to the Most High if it wasn't for the suffering I went through. If it wasn't for losing everything that I thought I had in that moment, I don't think I would have come to the Most High if it wasn't for that. So suffering can have two effects. It can strengthen your resolve and your relationship with the Most High and bring you closer than you ever were before. Or it can rip you right out of His hands. And it's you ripping yourself out of His hands. Just like Balaam. It's you cursing yourself because of the things you don't understand. And I don't want us to be in the Balaam situation. I want us to be in the Job situation. Where we don't sin and don't curse God and don't blame Him. And that if we do get to a breaking point, we understand that we really don't have a leg to stand on. We have no right to question the Most High. We have no right to put Him to the test. We have no right to demand anything from Him. And when He gives and when He takes away is fully in His power to do so. And we can't argue against it. He is the creator. He created us. He has every right and every prerogative to do these things to us or to allow them to happen to us. Because God doesn't cause evil. God, it seems like in the Bible, He only ever takes His protection away. It's like the Most High is our shield against all the evil. And we do stuff that gives Him no choice but to remove Himself and take that shield away. And then all the evil comes upon us. And then when that happens, most of us tend to blame God. And we don't ever take a look in the mirror. We don't ever look what God had to sacrifice for us in Yeshua. We don't look at what Yeshua had to sacrifice for us. We don't see our suffering as a needed thing that is actually beneficial to our walk. We see it as like, why, God, why? Why are you doing this to me? Why are you making me suffer? I love you. I'm trying to serve you. Why? A lot of us tend to do that. And I honestly can't sit before you and say that if Job-like suffering came before me, I would be able to act even with his integrity. And he still cracked. Right? I don't think I'd be able to do as good as Job did. And frankly, I don't want to find out. If I'm being honest with you guys, I don't want to go through what Job went through. I've been through suffering, and it sucks. And I definitely don't want to go through the type of suffering that Job had to go through, or the type of suffering that Yeshua went through. And I don't know if I could maintain my strength through those times, because people never ever know how they're going to act in a situation until they're actually presented with it. I've seen it firsthand. And I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, I know I could be better than Job. Because I don't think I could be. I don't know if I could be. And none of you should sit there and say in your heart, I know I could do better than Job. Right? We need to learn from what Job went through. And everybody else in the Bible for that matter. We need to learn from what they went through. And have that in our heart. And be ready to learn from that in the worst of times as well. But we may not be able to do that. Or we may be able to do it, but not as well as some of these other folks did it. But you definitely can't sit there and say that you know you would do well in these types of situations, that you know that you could be greater than these people and act better than these folks acted. I don't think you can know that. And I definitely don't think you should act like you know that. I think we need to humble ourselves before the Most High. Whether good or bad, we need to humble ourselves, seek His face, turn away from evil, not sin against Him to the best of our ability. And when we do sin, turn away from it as best as we can. Repent for it. Beg for forgiveness. Realize that what you've done, you definitely deserve not to ever get into the kingdom. You definitely don't deserve the sacrifice of Yeshua. You definitely don't deserve the things that God has allowed you to have on this earth. Because all of us have gone through good and bad times. And all of us have received good things that we don't deserve. Maybe we lost them, but we all have received them at some point in our life. Whether it's your children, whether it's your job, your finances. It doesn't matter what good things you have received. You have received something good, and we don't deserve it. None of us deserve the good things that we have received. So it's important to understand that. And to not use that as an excuse not to obey God. It's another important thing to understand. Because a lot of people, most people, use the sacrifice of Yeshua in order to disobey God. And as we talked about before, and as we've looked at in the scriptures today, I really don't think that's going to go good for you on Judgment Day. If you don't stop and repent and turn, start living a life in the footsteps of Messiah Yeshua. Try to be a living sacrifice worthy of what was paid for you. If you don't start doing that, I fear for you greatly. But it is your walk to walk. I have no bearing on your salvation. I can't stand in before you on Judgment Day. You can't blame me or anybody else for our teachings, if they're biblical or not. You can't sit there on Judgment Day and say, oh, I didn't obey Yeshua because that guy on TikTok told me, he showed me all this scripture. He showed me all the scripture he twisted. He showed me all these opinions of scholars, opinions of men, doctrines of men. He showed me all of this. Right? It's his fault. That's not going to work on Judgment Day. The ignorance card isn't going to work. So, anyways, I am going to jump off here. I thank you guys for spending your time with me. Again, really appreciate it. And the emails are just pouring in. The emails are just pouring in. Thank you guys. I'm so happy that you are as excited about this as I am, and that you want to be a stronger community, even if it's just a handful. I don't care how many are in it. I don't care if it's me and one other couple. I don't care if it's me and 5 other couples. It doesn't matter to me how big our community is. It doesn't matter if our church, our ecclesia, is 10 people or 1,000 people. It doesn't matter to me how big it is. It matters to me the people that are willing to come strengthen this community that we have with each other, to help each other, to pray for each other. That means a lot to me. And like I said, if we do end up doing a Zoom call or something to that effect, and only 2, 3, 4 people show up, fine by me. Right? If I host a Sukkot and only 2 other people come, fine by me. You know, last Sukkot, I had like 60 people say they were gonna come, and we only ended up having like 20 people show. Like, I don't even know if it was 20, because people brought their kids and stuff like that. So maybe in all reality, it was only like 8, 10 people that showed up, and then brought some family and some kids. But I had a blast. I had a great time. It didn't matter to me how many people showed up. I don't care how many of you want to do this, whether it's a lot or whether it's a few. But for those of you that do want to do it, so do I. I want us to be a stronger community, even if we're small. So, power of prayer, power of fasting, power of people that are like-minded, standing up with each other goes a long way. And I'm glad that a lot of you also see the benefit of that. So I will work on compiling this list and sending out an email to all of you guys with contact stuff. I will work on doing some kind of Zoom meet and greet. I don't know. So that we can all jump on, see each other's faces, put a face to the name, hear some testimonies, hang out together, you know. And in the meantime, my studies will go on as long as the Most High allows it. I will do my Tuesday study as long as the Most High allows it. I will be continuing next Shabbat in Revelation as long as the Most High allows it. So thank you guys. Again, I'm going to jump off. Enjoy the rest of your Shabbat to the best of your ability. Albeit, though some of you may be suffering, it's still a time of joy. It's still a time to honor Jesus, Messiah, Yeshua. You know, the Sabbath is a foreshadow of spending the millennial reign with him, and I don't want to let Satan ruin that day for me. So, anyways, thank you guys so much. Thank you for your prayers. Thank you for fasting with me. Just thank you guys for everything. You don't know how much you bless me. You bless me as much or more than I bless you, guaranteed. So thank you guys for the community that you are forming. It means a lot to me. It means a lot to my wife. And I really, really hope it gets stronger and stronger and stronger. So I love you guys. May the Most High bless you and keep you and make his face to shine upon you. May he be gracious to each and every one of you and lift up his countenance upon you and give you wonderful peace in the name of our Messiah, Yeshua. I look forward to speaking with you guys soon. I'll be checking these emails and getting back in touch with all of you very soon. And I'll see you guys on Tuesday. Love you. Have a good rest of your Shabbat.